Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Actually, just realized I have to change that date right now. Yesterday I was out unexpectedly for my son. A couple doctor's things, everything's fine. But I hate being out, especially unexpectedly and especially in September. So I am just popping in. I think I'm going to take you for a couple days in the week and kind of go over the activities we have been up to and what's going on kind of at school. But right now I'm going to get my room prepared and look over my plans for today to make sure and see what happened yesterday and, go over everything after a sub left and make sure that we're set up to go. So we'll do that and then I will pop in later. And hello again. Hair is up. It's already the end of the day. I was going to pop in with you in the morning while I was getting everything done, and it just got really busy, and I was talking to a bunch of people and forgot. So here we are now at the end of the day, but I still wanted to take you along, kind of share what I am teaching this week, what activities we're using, and how that is all going. So I thought we would start first with phonics. Let me pull up the slides and show you kind of what we've been doing these last couple of weeks, because we're finishing up our first unit of foundations, which is just letter review. So let me show you that. Also, real quick, look at what my husband got me delivered today. He actually was going to have this sent yesterday, but because we spent the whole day at the doctor with my son, he rescheduled it for today. It is so pretty. It is beautiful, like fall bouquet. I cannot wait to take that home. All right, so we are finishing up our letter sound review, like I said. These are the slides I told you I made over the summer for foundations. So they just go along with the manual and they do everything that it's supposed to. I did add a couple things in here, like this, starting with the sound. What sound do you hear at the beginning of each of these words? Yell, yarn, and yo-yo. And I want them to say y. And then we go over the keyword. This is from foundations. The keyword image matches yellow up there. So we do that. We go over what our mouth should look like, and then I come up on the board and I show everybody how this is a plain line letter, and I talk through how to make a Y, how it goes down to the worm line. And then I actually have students come up and with the marker they go ahead and trace it in the highlighter function. So I have like 3 or 4 students do that. And then I also have them skywrite it in the sky as they like move my marker, is what I say. So I'll have my marker up there. I say, okay, make it move. And I follow them to see if I can make the right steps. So we do that for Y. And then today, of course, we did X. So we talked about how it's at the end of words, not at the beginning. Mix, wax, and box. We talked about how the X actually has 2 sounds. This is what it looks like. F, fox, x. And then we went ahead and made it in that same way that I mentioned. Then I have students take out their whiteboards and markers, and we go ahead and we form a bunch of letters. So we do some dictation with the letters. Since I just introduced Y and X today, I will first have them on their lines make 5 Ys, 5 X's, and they circle the best one. As I go around and check them, I also call some students up to make the Ys and X's up here on the board too. They kind of show their best work up here. And after they write their 5 Ys, 5 X's, circle the letters, and I have students come up here after I've gone around and really checked everybody, make sure we have the letter formation down correctly. Then I will have students erase their boards and they have to do like a quick check with me where I will say a sound and they have to write it down. So I'll say, okay, and we're doing just the sounds we know, which is almost all of them now. So I say, listen very carefully, I'm gonna move quick. T, and I see them make a T and they hide it and they do it quickly on their board. I say, b, f, g. You get it. And I do about 10 of them, and then I go ahead and write them on the board one by one. So I usually have it in like a Post-it so I know which ones I did. I will write them on the board, and students can check if they got it correct or incorrect, give themselves a little check mark, and fix it if they need to. So these are the slides for the like I said, the first unit of just like letter review, letter sound. This is our 3rd week of it. Foundations does 3 weeks of this review. I'm ready for it to kind of move on. I feel like we're ready there. So next week we will start CVC. And again, we use foundations. I use my slides that go along with it and it follows the book, which I love perfectly. And then we just add to our journals. There's another slide up there that I can show you. The last slide after this one is just let's add to our journal. And then they take out their octopus journal, which is their journal, and they color in the letters that we have learned, that we've gone over. And as they color it in, they're supposed to say the sounds. And then they come to the rug for writing. Okay, for writing, we have been using my foundational slides in the writing club. And they're just like 10 lessons, so it's 2 weeks of lessons about some basic writing that we want our students to do. Just looking real quick, it says, I can use shapes to make illustrations, using shapes to make backgrounds, adding labels to our illustrations, using sounds to spell words. And then this past week, we really are finishing up and going into the parts of a sentence, like how to write a complete sentence. What does that sound like? How it has a naming part and a telling part, writing different types of sentences with a period, a question mark, an exclamation point. So let me just show you the last 3 lessons that we did kind of leading up to today. I'll just walk through them quickly, just so you can get an idea of kind of what we're doing in writing and where we are headed. All right, so I'm gonna flip through quickly. This was lesson 5. I can identify the parts of a sentence. Sentence ends with a period, question mark, and then this was the one we'll start with. So I can write complete sentences that end with an exclamation point. We kind of review that we have already talked about a period and a question mark sentence, and then we talk about a question mark sentence, you know what I mean. We talk about the exclamation point, what it looks like. I also give them a little hand motion of us, let me flip it. The hand motion that I give them for an exclamation point is they kind of start here like they do with the period, and then we punch it up to the sky. So we do, when we have a period, it ends like this. Exclamation point is, and then question mark, we kind of do like a, that's like our little hand signal for what it looks like when we're talking about it. So we talk about how we use this type of punctuation at the end of a sentence when we're sharing a strong feeling. Sometimes it's a happy, excited feeling. Sometimes it's a scared or upset feeling, but it has to be a strong emotion. And then they watch me, so of course I model. I write a sentence showing a strong feeling about this picture. Here I work with the class and I get some input and I write one of their sentences. And then they go off on their own and they have to write their own sentence. Now, I do include a 10-minute timer, and one of my rules for writing time is they need to write for the entire 10 minutes. So when they write their sentence, and they'll try to write one for each, an exclamatory sentence, they have to make sure it has a capital letter, they understand what it says, punctuation, and spelling. If they are done and they still have time, they can color in the pictures or they can try to write another sentence. But I do make them sit and work for 10 minutes straight. Now, I will also point out that most of my students, it takes them a full 10 minutes to actually write and edit 2 complete sentences. At least maybe that's just my class, but it definitely has. Which I think is pretty normal. So they go ahead and they spend most of the time. There's really only 1 or 2 students that are maybe trying to add another sentence. Plenty of students do finish with about a minute or so left and they get to go ahead and color the images, so that's fine. But my students definitely aren't just like flying through it and then I'm just having them sit there for 10 minutes. I just wanna make that clear. Then we always share. So how are your sentences the same? Like they're talking to a partner, showing what theirs look like. What feelings are you showing during the sentences? And then yesterday we talked about writing a detailed superstar sentence. So I said, listen to the sentences below. Are they complete? How do you know? A fish swims, my teacher reads, the kid skates, which we already know by now that they have a naming part and a telling part, so it is a complete sentence. And then we talk about how these sentences are a little bit different. And then we talk about how these are called superstar sentences. I explained that this is when the reader gives even more details. Oops, go back. We often use question words like who, what, where, when, why, and how to add to these sentences. And again, they'll model me, go ahead and make one. A girl shops, I'll add to it. This one, we work together and they will give me the ideas. I will write it on the board. And then they have to go off and write their own. This one says a kid plays, and they have to take that sentence and add who, what, where, when, why, or how. They can add 1, they can add 2, however many they want, and then draw a picture to match. And of course, a sharing. And last but not least, this is the one we did today. I can write 2 sentences about a topic. So I again review how we've worked really hard to write many different types of sentences. As we continue writing this year, we're gonna add more and more. This is where I really show them that even though the sentence isn't done, I go to the next side, to the next line and continue writing. It shows them how to wrap the text. I also explain like our period does not just go at the end here because that's the end of the line. I have to wait until my thought is complete, to the end of that complete sentence. I go ahead and model, we again worked together. And then what we did actually before we wrote this one about turtles, we watched a quick 5-minute video I found on YouTube, just sharing some turtle facts. So we had some knowledge first to go ahead and write. And then they had to write 2 sentences, just like before, add their periods there, color in the turtle, and they were done. This has been going really well for us in terms of the writing. 2 things I do want to point out. Number 1, these are, I think I said, they're just in the SJT Literacy Club right now. All of these sentence-based ones, I have very similar types of activities. They don't have the slides, but very similar types of activities in my sentence writing unit right here. We go through all of those steps. I can try to work on getting slides. Like, no promises of that probably till next summer, honestly. And then the other thing I want to mention is that we are adding this in, me and my other colleague who are piloting EL education, because we have found that the EL education is really lacking in writing. I love, and I want to make this clear, I love and understand the research behind writing about what we are reading and that connection between it, right? Making it relevant. But there's just no explicit writing instruction in EL education from what we have gathered this far. And we've taught it for 5 weeks now, and my students are kind of expected to just write a sentence and know what that means. So instead, we are supplementing with these lessons earlier in the day so they understand what those sentences look like, sound like, and so on. And then they get to go ahead and apply that knowledge when they are responding to reading in their notebooks for EL, which has worked a lot better because now I can say, I can refer back to, oh, well, what does our sentence need to have? Does that start with a capital letter? Like all the little things we're kind of learning about. So that has worked for us. So just 2 little notes to make. All right, so switching subjects here, now talking about math, we are diving into addition and subtraction within 10. So Math in Focus does numbers 1 through 10, which we did last time. I have a whole video about it right here. And then we kind of jump into adding and subtracting and those number connections. So we've done a few Math in Focus lessons already. Yesterday, and I was planning to do this anyway, yesterday I had the sub walk through some of my math teaching slides for number connections and using number bonds as a way to kind of solidify the content and make it a little more clear. So let me show you those. Now, I don't remember if I shared these ones last year, so I apologize if this is a repeat, but these are, again, my math teaching slides, and they kind of walk through every skill that you're going to teach in 1st grade. They have like an introductory lesson for it, and it walks through the same 6 slides. So here's the first one, and it's always a kind of, let's think about it, maybe a math warm-up, a little math talk here. So look at these cubes. How can you break this cube train into different parts? So we would talk about the many different ways we could break this up, what that might look like. I would write it on the board. Oh, so 1 and 5, and I would do an addition sentence. And then the let's learn, the explicit teaching. So I go over a number bond is a great way to show the connection between numbers. We can show the parts of a whole number. So we do part, whole. And then watch me practice. So this is when I had the sub come over and do it, but using cubes, sitting on the carpet in a circle. They had a number train of 10, and I would go ahead and break it up into little pieces. I would put the cubes over where they belong on the parts area, and then we would talk about what the whole is and how that works. And then what I had students do is I had them go off, and we actually practiced this the day before too, so I have some pictures I'll insert in a moment. So they would put their cube train behind their back, and they would break it into 2 pieces, and then they would have to complete the number bond on their mats, or in this case, they did it here on the recording sheet. We talked about how the whole is going to be 10 because we're always starting with 10, but then we looked at all the different ways we can actually make 10 by breaking them up. And then, of course, they do their independent practice. So they had to solve this sheet right here. Go ahead and answer. You can see only the wholes are missing, so not the parts. It was relatively simple. And then they could go over to IXL. Well, that kind of abruptly ended, but I had to get changed and run so I can make it to my Pilates class. I did forget sensible shoes, so I look ridiculous. Yeah, it's a little embarrassing, but that's okay. These are the shoes I'm talking about. I have my Pilates socks, and I forgot to bring flip-flops. So let's hope I can park nice and close to the Pilates studio. All right, heading into Pilates. I will check in with you tomorrow, but we kind of went over the main things we're doing in phonics, the main things we are doing in math with those number bonds, and the main things we're doing in writing. So I'll pop in tomorrow and let you know what else we're up to. Hi everyone, just a little pop in. I wanted to remind you in this video that I am actually hosting a brand new session over at the Educator Summit. And in this session this January, I am going to be sharing some easy, fun, and effective literacy centers that you can do in your K1 and 2 classrooms. They are, of course, science and reading aligned, research aligned, and I've been using them in my classroom for the last few years, so I have some great ideas and lots of freebies for you. If you would like to join me there, the conference is completely virtual. I will put the link down in the description for you to check out. All right, back to the video. Good morning, happy Thursday. It is getting close to the end of September and I am just in the mode of how do we get everything done? Not just here at school, but it's like just the month has like flown by with sports season coming back up, school being back in swing, all the after school things. We've had something pretty much every day after school for like 2 weeks now. Actually, I think the only day we didn't have something after school was last week when I filmed a day in my life for that video. I think I just did a workout class and that was it, but no like other obligations. This week we had, my two boys both had their open houses. One was Tuesday, one was last night. So that was nice going over to the big kids school and seeing what they do over there. We have our open house next week, which is actually pretty late this year. So ours doesn't happen till next week. And I haven't really thought about planning that just yet. I'm mostly going to use what I used last year. That way it's a little bit easier for me. I do think I forgot to tell you, I think I put a video of me putting the new rug in, but I didn't actually share anything about it. My other rug I loved. It looked like this right here. It's basically exactly the same as that one, except it was from Rugs USA and it doesn't have any backing on it. So what was happening in year 2 already, it was getting really, really kind of scrunched up and would never just stay flat. And this one is like the dupe from Amazon, which was I think a lot cheaper, and it has a much thicker backing, so it should stay flat a lot longer. So we're gonna see how that one works out. Just got in here today, it's almost 7:30. I'm going to look at the slides for today and I have to get ready for my TAT meeting. I think I shared this a couple videos ago, but I'm on the TAT team, which stands for Teachers Assisting Teachers. And that is a team of teachers where we kind of get together, and if any of the other teachers in the school are having trouble with the child or need some strategies for them, or if they're worried about them with academic progress, anything like that, they kind of bring it to the TAT team, and it's a place to like document it, come up with new strategies, do check-ins, and kind of get that child and teacher the help that they need. So it's a really cool process that they do here, which I love, and I was really excited to join the team this year. So that's every Thursday morning. We do that at 8 o'clock. So right now, let me pull up the slides and make sure I have everything ready for the day. Looks like today we are introducing how to add by counting on. So we're gonna play this little partner game, and this is from my math teaching slides, same as the ones I showed you yesterday for number bonds, but for counting on. So I'm gonna put these in some plastic sleeves. Popping in from after school. It is Friday Eve. I do need to bring home still my beautiful flowers from yesterday. So I'm gonna bring those home. I couldn't bring them home yesterday because I was gonna be out for a while and I didn't want to leave them in the car. I wanted to show you these adorable Happy Mail slips that my coworker, one of my colleagues, made to send home, and I just sent home a couple, and I wrote down the ones that I needed to. I wrote down their names and why, but it's just a little happy mail slip, and it says, I am so proud of blank for, and then it has some different categories here, like showing kindness, going above and beyond, helping a peer teacher, being a role model, and working respectfully. So these are some things that as a first grade team, we're all kind of working on anyway. She made these cute little slips here to inspire some positivity and let parents know that they're doing a great job. Since I think I said this, we don't have our open house or anything for another week, which feels like quite a bit of time. Even though it's only been 20 school days, it has been kind of spread out over like 5 weeks. So I do feel like we've seen, I've seen the kids a lot, but I haven't got to meet the parents yet. The parents don't really know what's going on every day and the structure and how I work. So I thought sending some nice little happy mail home would be a good little intro into meeting some parents before next week starts. So I'm excited about that. This morning, I know I was getting a bunch of stuff prepped, and I also had my TAT meeting, so all of that went well, but that means I didn't get to check in with you. So I just wanted to share a little bit about what we did today. So let me show you math. I know I showed you the sheets that I was kind of doing earlier, and we practiced counting on today for one of our addition strategies within 10. So let me grab the mat and I'll kind of show you how to play. So first I did a whole group lesson explaining, we've talked about number bonds and how we can use a number bond to show the parts in the whole and how that shows an addition sentence. Today we talked about how we can add within 10 by counting on, and I always show them 2 main ways to do that. When we're talking about counting on, I always have them put the bigger number in their head. They kind of put their head like this, and then they count on however many more using their fingers. So if it was 9 plus 2, they'd put 9 in their head, count on 2 more, 10, 11. We only did it within 10, so I don't know why I gave you that example, but you get it. So 4 in your head plus 2 more, 5, 6. And we practiced that a few times. And then I also showed them how to do that on a number line, how we circle the number first, and then we do that many hops to kind of count on. So having done that, I then showed students how to play this little game. So let me flip. This is the game right here. Don't mind the glare. But basically all students would have to do is first they would roll the dice, 2, they would write 2 here, and then they would spin the spinner, 4. So 2 plus 4. They would solve that by either counting in their head or using the number line. They could also put the number in their head and then count on the fingers. They had many different strategies here, and they would write the answer. As they did this, there was actually a recording sheet. I don't have an extra one to show you, but there was a recording sheet, so they had to do it 10 times, and each student had their own column. So while one student goes, the other person checks it, and vice versa. So they're just writing this right here. So it'd say 2 plus 4 equals 6, and that lets me kind of check in on them too. After they finished that with their partner, they went on and they did a little independent sheet here. So 4 plus 5 equals 9, and this student chose to use the number line, so you can see all their hops here, and this was in the Turnitin bin, so I can go ahead and check it. Overall, the class did a really good job with that. I definitely have a few students that get stuck putting that number in their head, and then they can't remember how many they're supposed to count on, or the fingers get tricky. And then of course with the number line, making sure that we are actually hopping before we say that first number. So that's something we will of course practice, and we will touch upon all these strategies again when we get to addition within 20. So it's everything we kind of introduce now, practice it within 10, and then it comes back around when we do the within 20. So that's what we've been up to. Tomorrow we do have a half day for PD in the afternoon. Teachers are still here all day. We have a PD for I think it's like sensory integration into your classroom, so I'm really excited about that. The only other major thing we did today was I made sure every student got their Fluency folder. Our Fluency folders are something that we keep all year long, and we add to it. So the first thing I always add is just a little roll and race sheet, and I actually call students over in pairs and introduce their Fluency folder. So I tell them this is going to be your folder, we're going to add to it all year, and when they come back to my small groups, they kind of know, because their name will be on the smartboard if they're coming back to me, they will bring their Fluency folder in their book bin, and right away they will get started doing one of the activities in here. So at the beginning of the year it'll be this, but then eventually they can come over and they can choose any of the poems or decodable stories or anything we add in there. This roll and race game is just in my literacy club under the Fluency category. I have them for all different skills. This one's for letter name, but you can obviously do it for letter sound too. So I just had students roll the dice. They had to practice saying the names of these letters as fast as they could. I had them do it about 2 or 3 times, and then I had them change it to the sound. So they would roll and then say b, v, I, l, n, p, qu. So they did it a couple different ways. This also let me do a quick little check-in with my students, since we have not had our universal screener yet, and we have also not started reading groups. So it was a good way to kind of just see who can do any of those quickly. So I had some students who could do the letter naming really quickly, but were tripped up on the sounds. Some could do both fine, and then some still didn't have that letter name down quickly yet either. They didn't have that letter name fluency. And all my students always keep their fluency folders in their book bins. Right now, their book bins, you can see a lot of like elephant and piggy books. Right now, their book bins are just filled with 5 books they picked from our class library over there. I had them do that a little bit ago. They're just kind of looking through the pictures. I do have a bunch of strong readers who are reading, especially those elephant and piggies. They're reading those. But soon we will go through those book bins. They will still get to pick books they like, but they will also have decodable books that we are working on in our small groups. And then the last things we've been up to is at the end of the day after specials, we do our EL pilot. So that's when our lessons are done for EL. Today we read this book right here. Let me grab it. The Little Red Pen. So we read this book. I think I told you this already, so I apologize if this is a repeat, but if you've been following my videos, then you know we're doing the EL pilot and we are doing all 3 units in module 1. So it's 8 weeks long, and the first unit was to kind of build up students' knowledge around tools. So we talked about what tools are, we used them, we did a bunch of fun challenges. Second unit got us talking about tools of character or habits of character. So how we can go ahead and build things. And I'll show you my anchor charts in a minute for both of those. And then very soon we're starting that next unit, which we're going to take our knowledge about tools and we're going to take our knowledge about habits of character and use them to actually create something for the classroom. So let me just flip the camera around and show you real quick. So over here I have the 2 anchor charts we've been doing so far. This is our first one that we filled up in unit 1, where we learned about different tools and how we use them to help us make things easier. And then this one was our habits of character. So we really did a deep dive into the book, The Most Magnificent Thing. Students really enjoyed that book. It's a great book to read. And we talked about how the character had initiative, collaboration, and perseverance, and how all 3 of these things are going to help us create something magnificent, just like the girl did in the book. And then the transition today was kind of saying, well, students, I wonder, just because we saw it so many times in this book, I wonder if we can see those same habits of character in another book like The Little Red Pen. So I've actually never read this book. I read it today. It is long, but students loved it. They thought it was very funny and very well done. And then over the next, few days, we're going to do a close read into that book. Today, we kind of just read it once through. We're going to do a close read into it, focus on some pages, talk about character feelings and emotions, and then also see if we can transfer our knowledge about habits of character from one book to another. All of that is going pretty well, and that brings us to social studies and science. We have not started science yet, and social studies is about 25 minutes at the end of the day. I'm sure you all feel my pain with that and where kind of everything gets squeezed out and we don't have time to do things. So we've been using Karen Jones units for social studies. So we just finished up our unit on community and how we can be good citizens and all those fun lessons for like the beginning of the year, which is great. But since we just finished that up, that leaves me a little bit of time to kind of read some of my own favorite SEL books that I like. The first one, a necessity. My mouth is a volcano. I used to do a whole fun craft with this and everything when I taught a long time ago, but we just don't have enough time for a big craft like that during this time of day. So we read My Mouth is a Volcano, we talked about different strategies, and then this little freebie is just on TPT. It says My Mouth is a Volcano. If I feel like I'm going to erupt, I will. So they had to write down one strategy they will use, and then they just colored it in, had them share it with a partner, and they took it home. But next week, I think I'm going to start my units at the end of each day. I'm going to read one of the little Spot of Emotion books. I did a whole little thing on it last year. Here's a little picture of the anchor chart where we talk about each one, we identify the emotion, and then we talk about what we can do when we feel that emotion. So I think that'll be really helpful for our class. But yeah, end of another week. Tomorrow's already Friday. It's still, I feel like I've been in school longer than 20 days. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it does feel like I've been here longer than 20 days. I think, again, because the weeks, those first couple of weeks were like 2 days and then only 3 days. But at the same time, it feels like we've been here a long time, but it's also flying. I don't really know. Anyway, that is what we are up to this week. As always, I hope you found that to be helpful. Please ask any questions, comments, concerns, throw them down in the comment section. I like to answer your questions and get ideas from you guys. Let me know what you were working on, what other videos you'd like to see. And as always, if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up so I know. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel and click that bell. That way you get notified of every new video. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.